Good day, my dear students. You're welcome to our class on air. We're still continuing with our revision series aimed at preparing you adequately for the SSC English language examinations conducted by WAEC and NECO. We recollect that we have been looking at paper 2. What are the requirements of paper 2? We looked at essay writing, remember? Today we're going to look at comprehension. Comprehension carries 20 marks, as we have been made aware, and therefore it is important for us to know what are the demands and how to answer the questions on comprehension passages that we are given. We are given one passage, and for that passage we are asked so many types of questions. On the passage we are given, we are asked about 5 types or 4 types of questions. All that we are going to discuss today are in the New Oxford Second English course for senior secondary schools. The comprehension passages, the tapes are on page 12 of the book. You can see, go ahead and get hold of the book. Now, I said that the comprehension passage we have before us, usually we have about 5 categories or 4 categories of questions. So we need to know what are the demands, what are the things that we are required to know about this type of question that we are asked. The first one is the question based on facts or information from the passage. Facts or information. Facts or information based on the passage. We said the first category are questions based on facts or information from the passage. These are questions testing your knowledge of the content of the passage itself. And these questions are asked through the WH questions. How, why, when, and so on and so forth. Those are the questions that are asked. And they are actually the first 4 or 5 questions on the comprehension passage. And what are these? The questions seek to know whether you actually understand, comprehend. You know, the thing is comprehension, whether you comprehend the passage. Here, you have to read the passage carefully and then be able to answer the questions that are based on this passage, which are the first 4 or 5 questions. Let me sound a note of warning here. The passages are taken from so many areas of human endeavor. Maybe physics, maybe science, maybe entertainment, maybe economics, maybe history. They are usually interesting passages. If you have extra knowledge, extra information apart from the one that you have in the passage, probably it's your own area in economics, for example, but you have more information than what you have in the passage. Make sure that you use the information that you have in the passage. Don't use the extra information to answer the questions. Let me give you an example. In one particular exam, I think it was 2010-2011, a passage was given. That passage was given on the fight against slave trade. In that passage, it was stated that William Wilberforce was actually noted or famous for fighting against slave trade. And one of the questions that was asked based on that passage is, for what was William Wilberforce famous? Many of the candidates, because of their knowledge of history, wrote that William Wilberforce was famous for abolition of slave trade. It is true that he was famous for that one, but that is not contained in the passage. The candidates were using their own extra knowledge. Therefore, you must not use extra knowledge. You have to use the content of the passage to answer the questions. That's the first category of questions. You also have the one that is based on figures of speech. You have been dealing with figures of speech, and you have only the simple ones. It's not the elaborate one. You have, for example, you have the simile, the metaphor, personification, euphemism, hyperbole. Remember that word is hyperbole, not hyperbole, as we usually come across students pronouncing them. We also have sometimes irony and sometimes paradox. And you have another one, which is actually a literary device, not a figure of speech. The rhetorical question. You have to master these ones. Simile, you already know. You're familiar with simile when you are comparing two things that are not similar. Like when you say, when you use as and like, as agile as a monkey, for example, or you say that the man ate the food like a wolf. That's a simile. Two things are being compared there, which are dissimilar, but you are draw attention to the quality that is common to both. Then you have here the metaphor. Metaphor in simple terms is when you say one thing to another thing. So as to draw attention to the quality that is common between both. For example, you say the girl or the boy is as stubborn as a goat. That's a simile. But when you say the boy is a goat, that is metaphor, meaning that the boy is very, very stubborn. Or when you say the girl is a dog, very gentle, or the girl is a pig. No, you are saying that the girl is as dirty as a pig, which is the simile. Then have the personification, when you actually endow things that are not human with human attributes, human characteristics, human qualities. And usually you have to make sure that what you are talking about has only human attributes. No other thing will share that quality with human. For example, you have death lays its icy hands on kings. Death, let me write down. Death lays its icy hands on kings. It's only a human being that can lay hand. No other animal, no other thing can lay hands. So it must have that, the personification must have that quality that is shared by no other thing except human. If I say many ideas rush to my mind, let me give another one. Many ideas rushed to my mind. The many ideas rushed to my is not personification, because animals can rush, water can rush, therefore it's just metaphor. So you have to make sure that what you are talking about is the attributes and qualities are singular to man. Right. Then you have euphemism. In this area, you talk about when you say something that is unpleasant in a pleasant form. It usually relates to probably matters of death. When you say, for example, you say gone to glory, instead of saying he's dead or obituary, you can say gone too soon, adieu, goodbye, and so on. All those are euphemism. Saying it in a pleasant form because it's unpleasant. Then you have also the hyperbole. Hyperbole, when you say something that is trying to exaggerate for the purpose of emphasis. For example, you say the whole of Lagos went to the stadium to watch the match. You can see the hyperbole there. How many people can the stadium in Lagos contain? You say the whole of Lagos. That's to show that mammoth crowd actually went to watch the match. Then you have irony. Irony is when you say something that is in simple terms. There are many types of irony, but in simple terms, when you say something opposite of what you mean. For example, we say the team is so formidable, very, very strong indeed. he played 10 matches, lost 9 and drew 1. You can see that this team is very, very strong indeed. When it's lost 9 matches out of 10 and it actually drew 1. That is irony. You know, the opposite of what you are saying. The paradox when you actually say something that is nonsensical, seemingly unreasonable, seemingly absurd, but when you look deeper into it, you have a lot of sense. When, for example, you say the child is father of the man, the child is the father of the man, and so on and so forth. That's a paradox. Then you have the rhetorical question. It's actually a literary device used by speakers. This question is one that actually you ask with the intention of answering it yourself. You are not expecting any response from the speaker or from the listener or the audience. Well, take note that you have to make sure that if you can identify any of these figures of speech in the passage, you have to write the spelling correctly. We have come across people or candidates writing so many things in exams. Example, you know that something is simile. You just write smile. Probably you are in a hurry. It is 0. Or probably you want to write a rhetorical question. You write it in this form. Question. It is 0 because the spelling is wrong. You are not actually talking about anything here. Therefore, make sure that if you are able to identify any of these figures of speech, write the spelling correctly. We have come across even people writing metaphor in this form. Metaphor is a metaphor or metaphory. All these will score 0, even though they have been able to identify something. But make sure that you actually know the spelling of each of these figures of speech when you are able to identify them in the passage. That's about figures of speech. Then you have another category of questions asked is the one on grammatical name and function. In other words, this relates to the parts of speech, usually the noun, the adjective, and the adverb. You should be able to identify them in the passage. But for our time, we cannot actually go over all these name and function. But you go and learn them, revise them. Know that when it's a phrase, it doesn't have a finite verb. When it's a clause, then it has a finite verb. Then no type of clause it is, whether it is adverbial clause or noun clause or adjectival clause or relative clause. And if you are able to identify the adverbial clause, please ensure that you know that it is adverbial clause of time if it is of time. If you don't know the adverbial clause of anything that it is, just write adverbial clause simply so that you don't lose the marks there. That's about that one. Then the fourth one can be questions based on attitude or inference. In this category of questions, the answer directly is not in the passage. But you look at how the writer is writing the passage, it is then that you can now answer this type of question. It can be what is the attitude of the writer. But when you look at how the writer is writing, then you're going to identify the attitude of the writer, or you're going to infer certain things from the passage. Then you have the fifth one, which is the word substitution. In other words, you are given one word or an expression from the passage. You have to give another word or another phrase that can mean the same thing as you have in the passage and can also replace it where it has been chosen from the passage. This is very, very important. Remember that a word has a meaning according to the context in English. We have discovered that even in essay writing, when we looked at the word bar, we can have about 16 meanings. You can also have line. Line, for example, as a noun. When you say line, depending on the context, If a housewife is talking about line, probably it means that place where she stretches her clothes for drying. Go and put the clothes on the line. Or probably a mathematician is talking about a line, maybe the shortest distance between 2 points. A soldier can talk about line, can be, in other words, a single file. Somebody who is a businessman can talk about line too. Probably has been producing a certain type of material, probably in type of soap, probably is producing detergent, or it is not moving fast, and then somebody says, why don't you do another line, another branch of the trade? So line has different meaning. So also the word you are giving will have a meaning according to the context in the passage. Therefore, you have to look at the context so I can give the appropriate one that will actually give the meaning. Not only that, can also replace it as it is used in the passage. It is very, very important. So you have to be very careful when you are doing this one. For example, if you are given a word which has an article, probably article A is a something. A something is a, or if it is an, probably an important. And this is underlined, important. You cannot give one that will not actually have this, that cannot take this an as the meaning of this word. Or if it's an article A or A, which is the pronunciation, or something, building. A building. You cannot use, and this is underlined, you cannot choose one, give another word which cannot take the article A. That's part of what you have to take note of. Apart from that, if a word has, if a word is a noun, it's a noun in the part of speech. What I'm giving you is a noun. You have to give another word that is a noun. If it's a verb, you have to give another word that is a verb. If the verb is in the past tense, you have to give the word that is in the past tense. If the past is in the third person singular, you have to give a word that is in the third person singular. Let me give you an example, for example, in this regard. In one of the exercises they were given, sometime they were given the fact that they should replace a word. This word, screamed. Screamed. Many candidates wrote shout. Remember, this word is in the past tense, and therefore any word that should be given must be in the past tense. Therefore, this one will be 0. Whereas you ought to have written shouted. That would be the full one. In the same way, if you say if it is screams, I now write shout or yell. If the yell is the appropriate one, yell. You write yell. Yell is not in third person singular. Therefore, it will be 0. Except you write yells. He yells, he screams, he yells. Therefore, take note of that one. And of course, if the noun, I told you, if the noun is in the singular, now it will be the singular. If the noun is in the plural, you have to give another one that's in the plural. Right. That is about the category of questions that are asked in the comprehension passage. But don't forget that all the 5 may not be asked in the on the passage. Maybe 4, maybe 5. You remember, one is facts or information from the passage, figures of speech, remember name and function, attitude. This may not actually be one, but sometimes it's added, sometimes it's not added. Then you have words, but these are constant. These are the ones that are constant. This one is constant, this one is constant, this is constant, and this is constant. Sometimes this is also added. So take note. Now let us look at a passage that typifies what we have been saying. In other words, the one that illustrates what we have been discussing. It's a typical SSC passage on comprehension or comprehension passage. You have it here. Read the following passage carefully. Answer the questions on it. The age-old maxim I should make hay while the sun shines remain valid in all life situations. Students who do not heed this advice will have themselves to blame. Doing the right thing at the right time requires planning, which is often taken for granted. There is a case with many students who answer that name only because they put on school uniform and leave home like others every school day. Unlike the serious-minded students, they are passive in class, a tendency heightened by the present population explosion in our schools. In some schools, about half of the student population have seats, while others stand or sit on the bare floor during lessons. It has become very easy for students to sneak in and out of class without the teacher noticing. However, those who really seek knowledge will succeed. Carefree students skip lessons at will, turn in poorly written assignments, and rarely make notes. As a result, their continuous assessment scores are usually far below average. Such students continue to put in an appearance in school until the examinations come knocking at the door. It is then that they resort to burning the candle at both ends. They engage in negative activities such as stealing the textbooks and notebooks of their mates, which they read in hiding with a view to making up for lost ground. At the 11th hour, they start praying to Mother Luck to turn back the hands of the clock, increase the hours of the day from 24 to 48, or better still, cause examination to be postponed indefinitely. But diligent students say a different kind of prayer. Oh God, let the day of reckoning come quickly, that we may demonstrate what we have learnt. At the last minute, our friends sleepwalk into the examination hall, not only ill-equipped, but also worn out. But they do not lose hope. There could still be a way out. The vigilator might help, or those who have worked hard all through the term might cooperate and let them reap where they have not sown. Ultimately, the diligent students succeed and the lazy ones fail. Now that's the passage. In fact, I want you to assess yourself based on this passage itself. Are you the serious-minded one? This is usually interesting passages are given to candidates. Now let's look at the questions. A, what does the author mean when he says, make hay while the sun shines? Now look at, in fact, the answer is actually really in the passage. That actually means doing the right thing at that time. In other words, the author means doing the right thing at the right time. Make hay while the sun shines. It's an expression, it's more or less an idiom. Make hay. It's from the hay. You know, hay usually it does well when there is sunshine, and therefore, if you make it during the wet season, it's not dry. Then you have B, state two ways in which students show lack of seriousness in class. Again, you have the answers in the passage. One of the ways is that they skip lessons. Apart from that, they turn in poorly written assignments. Apart from that, they rarely make notes. So there are three ways there, but you are asked to choose only two. So you can have the fact that they skip classes, not that they miss classes, or you can also write that they do not do the assignments well, or they do not even make notes at all. Now number C, state two conditions which contribute to students' lack of seriousness. Two conditions which constitute students' lack of seriousness. Again, they are there in the passage. First, the classes are now very large, and then the teacher cannot even notice anyone that is in or out of the class because of the large class that you have. Then number D, what do the carefree students hope will save them? Again, if you look at the paragraph, the last paragraph, they think that the invigilator may assist them. They also think that those students that have worked very hard will allow them to cheat. Those are the two ways. Don't forget that we said the first 5 questions may be the one that is based on facts or information from the passage. Look at A, B, C, D. All these are based on facts from the passage, as we have discussed. Then we have E, who do not heed this advice. What grammatical name is given to this expression as is in the passage? That's on grammatical name and function. That's the second, another category. And what is the function? If you look at the place where this one has come, let's look at second line. Students who do not heed this advice, students who do not will have themselves to blame. Therefore, what type of thing should it be? It's an adjectival clause or relative clause. And what is the function? Modifying, qualifying the noun students. Don't forget to have the right, not just modifying, not just qualifying, but modifies. It modifies the noun students, qualifies the noun students. The next one is question H. Then you have examination comes knocking at the door. So what figure of speech is in this one, in the above expression? Let's look at that. It says, such one continue to put in an appearance in school until examinations come knocking at the door. What is the figure of speech? That would be pacification. Only a person can knock in that form. So, and we're talking about examination come knocking at the door. So it's a pacification. No other person, no other animal or any other thing can knock. It's only people that can knock. Therefore, it's pacification. And what does it mean? It means when the examinations are at hand or when they are close. Anyone that you write, when they are near or they are close by. Then you have the next one, which is for each of the following words, find another word or phrase which means the same. You can replace it as it is in the passage. That is one on word substitution. You can see it now. What's one as valid? Let us look at where it valid has come. The age-old maxim that you should make hay while the sun shines remain valid. Look at the valid in all life situations. What can we use to replace it? Can we use true? It remains true. It will fit in properly. And that's the meaning. It's valid or not. Can be also meaningful in all situations. Remain meaningful, remain valid in all situations. That's all right. Let's look at another one. Skip. Let's look at where it has occurred. Where do we have skip there? Okay. Carefree students. Skip classes. Skip classes. We can have they miss classes. They skip lessons. They miss lessons. They skip. You can also have the cut. You know, you can have cut. You can cut classes. Cut. It still means you miss classes. You can go and check in your dictionary. When you cut classes too, you miss classes. Apart from that, you have also negative. Let's look at where negative has come. This line. They engage in negative activities. Negative activities. We can replace that with unprofitable activities. We go into the negative, unprofitable activities. Okay. Then look at another one. Postponed. Where has it come? This line. Cause examination to be postponed indefinitely. Postponed. What can we use there? Put off, right? Or delayed. You can have that one too. Indefinitely. Put off indefinitely or delayed indefinitely. That will also go. Let's look at another one. Demonstrate. Which comes here. Reckoning that we may demonstrate what we have learned. That we may show. We may exhibit what we have learned. All those ones also will go in quite perfectly. And the last one, diligent. You have ultimately the diligent students succeed, and the lazy ones fail. Diligent means serious students. Can be serious-minded students. Whichever one you choose will be all right and will fit into the place perfectly. And therefore, in this one, for example, we have the one type of question here on information, based on information. Then the grammatical name and function, that's another one. Figures of speech, the third one. And then the word substitution, the fourth one. Then we don't have anyone on attitude in this one. Probably we'll look at another one which has attitudinal question, attitude. Another one. Let's look at another passage, another comprehension passage. This time I've taken this one from the New Oxford Secondary English course for Senior Secondary School Book 3, and it's on page 123. It's a reading comprehension. Another typical passage for the SSE examination. Let's look at it. Read the following passage carefully and answer the questions on it. Any right-thinking person will be as disturbed as I am about the rising wave of violence in our tertiary institutions. The issue is not simply that students want to be involved in the decision-making processes that affect their welfare. They are already sufficiently involved. They are represented in various organs at which vital decisions are taken: the Campus Housing Board, the Student Welfare Committee, Campus Transport Committee, Campus Environment Board, Campus Worship Planning Committee, and others. Indeed, one might agree with those of my colleagues who argue that students are already over-involved in the decision-making processes of the institutions, and that a time may come when they would virtually take over all the vital organs. Or how else does one view their demand to be involved in the examination setting procedure? They might as well dictate what questions should be set for them and what class of degrees they should be awarded. The latest incident breeds my imagination. It is horrifying, to put it mildly, for students, some of them armed to the teeth, to descend on their Vice-Chancellor's household in the dead of night, arrest him and his family, and march them to their Parliament House for drilling, questioning, and torture. Is an assault on the system. For students to raise a hand against the person of the Vice-Chancellor, old enough to be their father, is sacrilege. It is more piteous that the victim this time is a chief executive who has consistently disagreed with his colleagues in order to please his students, his children, as he sometimes referred to them. Today, the students may think that they have won the battle, but I'm afraid we have not seen the end of the war. The repercussions are yet to come. This, I believe, was precisely what the Vice-Chancellor himself had in mind when he told his colleagues, who were calling for harsh punishment for the culprits, that this was not needed, and that time and God will sort matters out. After all, we are Africans. No matter how learned we may be in our culture, I'm yet to identify anyone who beat up his parents and made headway in life. Another very interesting passage. And then I have the questions. The first one is, what incident gave rise to the writing of the passage? And again, you can find that answer in the passage, and it is from this second paragraph of the passage. The latest incident beats my imagination. It's horrifying, to put it mildly, and you have the answer there. Now, the incident is that some student went to the house, the Vice-Chancellor's house, and arrested him, if you like, and took him to their Parliament House. They tortured him and his household. That is the incident, which is actually contained in the second paragraph here. Why does the writer think that the students had no cause to complain? Again, the answer is in the first paragraph. If you look at how the thing has been said, they are represented in various organs at which vital decisions are taken: Campus Housing Board, the Student Welfare Committee, Campus Transport Committee, Campus Environment Board, Campus Worship Planning Committee, and so on and so forth. In fact, in other words, the writer says that the students had no cause to complain because they are already over-involved in the decision-making processes of the institution. Then, why does the writer say that the Vice-Chancellor does not deserve the treatment he got from the students? If you look at the passage again, usually he would refer to them as his children. Look at the second paragraph. It's more picture that the victim this time is a chief executive who had consistently disagreed with his colleagues in order to please the students, his children, as he sometimes referred to them. No, he had always been on the side of the students. Why does the writer say that the vice chancellor does not decide the treatment he got from? He had always been on the side of the students. That is the answer. How does the vice chancellor still show his kind disposition towards the students after the incident? Again, this is contained in the last paragraph. Today, the students may think that they have won the battle. I'm afraid we have not seen the end of the battle of the war. The repercussions are yet to come. This, I believe, was precisely what the vice chancellor himself had in mind when he told his colleagues who were calling for harsh punishment for the culprits that this was not needed and that time and God will sort matters out. In other words, he still pleaded that the criminal should not be given harsh punishment. That's the answer. How does the vice chancellor still show his kind disposition? He was still pleading for the students not to be given harsh punishment. Then E, why does the writer put Parliament House in quotation marks? Let's look at where he has used it. In the second paragraph, it says, and mark them to their Parliament House. In other words, it is not the usual Parliament House. It's used in a special sense. That's why it is put in quotation mark. It's not real Parliament House where laws are made and so on and so forth. So it is in an unusual situation. Then we have, what is writer's attitude to the student's action? You remember we said there could be attitudinal questions on attitude. The answer directly is not in the passage. But from the way the writer is writing, you will see the attitude of the writer to it. Do we say that he supports the action of students who are assaulting their vice chancellor? Does he support them? Is he commending them? So from the way he has been writing, we know that it's an attitude of condemnation of what? He condemns them. What is the attitude of the writers? What is the writer's attitude to the students' action? That of condemnation. So he condemns them. G, who are calling for harsh punishment for the culprits. Let's look at where it has occurred. The last paragraph here, it says, this, I believe, was precisely what the vice chancellor himself had in mind when he told his colleagues who are calling for harsh punishment for the culprits. Now, let's look at it. What is the grammatical name given to the expression? It is an adjectival clause. Adjectival clause is a clause because it has a finite verb, of course, who are calling, right? And then, what is the function? The second part of the question is, what is the function as it's used in the sentence, right? So, it will be adjectival clause qualifying or modifying the noun colleagues. Remember, it is colleagues, not his colleagues. It is colleagues that is the noun. So if you write, if anybody writes his colleagues, it will be 0. Because the noun actually is colleagues, which is here. Right? Sorry, it is here. Colleagues. When it told is colleagues who are calling for harsh punishment for the culprits. So colleagues is a noun there. And so you have to write it there. And then when you write qualifies the noun colleagues in that form. You cannot just write qualifies the noun. You write qualifies the noun, any fool can write adjective qualifies the noun. So you have to identify the noun that it qualifies, which is, in this case, it is colleagues. Now let's look at another question. That is on word substitution now. First one is disturbed. For each of the following words or phrase, give another word or phrase that means the same and can replace it as it is used in the passage. The first one is disturbed. As I told you before, you have to look at where it has been used. Any right-thinking person will be as disturbed as I am as disturbed as I am. What can we put there? As disturbed as I am. Can be as worried as I am. It will be quite appropriate. It will be as perturbed. Another word is perturbed. Because this is what perturbed. As perturbed as I am. That's another one that is all right. Worried, perturbed. Can also be as upset as I am. Upset. To be upset. So any of those one will fit into it. But don't forget that you have to choose only one. Only one, not two. One word to replace this one. If you choose two, if you write two, if one is wrong and one is right, it is 0. If you are fortunate the two are right, you get the mark for that item. Let's look at another one. Welfare. The second one is welfare. Where do we have it? Okay, decision is not simply that students want to be involved in the decision-making process that affects their welfare. Welfare there, we can replace with well-being. Right, let's look at another one. The third one, colleagues. Where do we have colleagues there? Colleagues. Yes, okay. The first paragraph too. It says, indeed, one might agree with those of my colleagues. Colleagues. It's not mates this time around. When some people may think it's mates, not colleagues. My associates, my co-workers. Those one will be all right. Associates, co-workers. Remember, it's not mates. Your colleague is not your mate here in this context. Colleagues, co-workers, associates. Right. Let's look at another one. Piteous. Piteous. Let's look at where it has occurred. It is more piteous that the victim this time is, it will be pitiable, maybe pitiful. It is more pitiable, more pitiful that the victim this time is a chief executive who has considered disagree with his colleagues. Let's look at another one. Repercussions. Fifth one, repercussions. Where has it occurred? Today, this one may think that they have won the battle, but I'm afraid that they have not seen the end of the war. The repercussions are yet to come. Repercussions. That's very simple. Repercussions. Maybe the consequences, not consequence. Remember, this is in the plural form. If you write consequence, it will be 0. Repercussions, consequences, results, whichever one you write, out of those two will be all right. So, plural. Now let's look at the last one. Made headway. Where has it been used? The last line. I'm here to identify anyone who beat up his parents and made headway in life. Remember, made headway, the made there is past tense. Therefore, anyone that you are going to replace it with must be in the past form. It can be made headway, beat up his parents and made headway, succeeded. If you write succeed, it will be 0. Succeeded or progressed in life. Succeeded in life, progressed in life, whichever one you write will be all right for this. As I told you before, you have to write only 1, not 2 for each of these items. Otherwise, if you write 2, one is wrong, one is right, it will be 0. That is a typical example, another typical example of the comprehension passage which you come across in SSE examination English language. I'm afraid we are going to stop here today because of our time. And I want you to look at the passage again, look at the forms that we have discussed, so that you can take note of what we have actually discussed today. Well, until I come your way again, it's bye for now.